Hey, what's going on, everybody? In this video, we're going to be going over my TBR for the one readathon to rule them all. And this is a pretty cool fantasy readathon that was created by Ashley over at Don't Have a Reading Degree. And there's also several co-hosts, and they are James Chatham, Beck's Books, Chris's Bookish Cauldron, Ellie Evans, Read and Find Out, and The Bookish Gamer. I'm going to leave the links to all their channels down below. Guys should definitely go check them out. But yeah, this is a cool fantasy challenging readathon. There's 8 challenges, and I definitely want to participate in this because I started this channel a couple months ago, and I wanted to read lots of nonfiction, which is usually history or philosophy or sciences, and I also wanted to read some fiction, primarily being fantasy. But after January, where I read I think 5 or 6 fantasy books, I think I've read like 2 or 3 in 3 months. So yeah, I've definitely been neglecting fantasy, so I'm hoping this will basically get me out of my comfort zone and basically force me to read some fantasy, which I said I will do. And I've been buying fantasy books, and they've just been kind of like sitting there. So yeah, it's a good chance to start reading some of those, and I'm going to try and fulfill the challenges using books that I already have, which, to be honest, it really isn't that many. There's like 15 or 16, but still, I'm going to try to use them as best I can. So let's get started. Alright, so the first challenge is to read a fantasy book by a person of color. And here already, the co-host and the creator of this readathon already stand out because for almost all of these challenges, they have lists and spreadsheets that they've kind of compiled that for books that fulfill these challenges if you don't have books that meet the requirements. And I didn't have one that I thought fit this one, so I was just like browsing through some of the titles that they had compiled together, and I stumbled across The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu, and this is the first book in the Dandelion Dynasty series, and it just sounded like a really cool title. And when I looked into it, it's a very Chinese or East Asian influenced fantasy book, and to be honest, it was actually the second book. The cover looks really cool, so I was like, yeah, I kind of need to get the second book. But obviously I shouldn't say obviously, because I bought the second and third books before in a series without buying the first ones. But anyways, I'm like, I need to get that book, so I need to read the first one. So I picked up A Grace of Kings by Ken Liu. Now, for the second challenge is to read a fantasy book, with a person of color as the main character. And for this, I'm going to do an audiobook of Anansi Boys by Neil Gaiman. I picked this up a couple months ago, and I still haven't read a Neil Gaiman book. All I know is that I believe it's Anansi, the like African trickster god character. I think it's his kids are the main characters, I believe. That's pretty much all I know about it, but I've been wanting to read a Neil Gaiman book for a while now, so I figured this would be a good chance to go do that. For a third book is to read a book under 300 pages, and for that I'm going with The Riddle Master of Head by Patricia McKillop. And I had this on my TBR like a month or 2 ago, and I just didn't get to it because I read non-fiction for whatever reason. But yeah, I've been definitely looking forward to reading it. I've read the first like 2 chapters, and I really like it. It's very different from anything I've read because like the aristocracy of the main character is basically like a farmer. Like he like works the land and does all that kind of stuff too, and that what sets him apart really is not his like regal authority or anything like that. So, and also obviously like riddling and knowledge like that is a very important aspect of this society, I guess, so far. But yeah, I'm definitely interested in reading it, and it comes in at like 200 something pages, so it definitely fills that challenge. Okay, for challenge number 4, the complete opposite is to read a book of over 1,000 pages, and I only own 2 fantasy books that even fit that requirement, and they are both Brandon Sanderson Stormlight Archive books, and since I haven't read them, I kind of have to go with the first one anyways. So we're going to go with The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson. Yeah, I figure I have to like start reading him because when I ask for recommendations, I'm basically just getting beaten over the head over and over and over with Brandon Sanderson. And also he's got like a bazillion reviews, so I figure I might as well just see what it's all about. And so I'm going to try and get through The Way of Kings in the deadline as well. Alright, for challenge number 5, it's to read a standalone book. I'm going to kind of cheat on this one because, you know, if I try to read all 8 of these books anyways, it's going to be difficult. But I'm going to go with Conan the Rebel. And even though, yeah, technically Conan is a series per se, all of the books basically are standalones. And this isn't even one of the early novellas, since I think, this one's by Paul Anderson. It's like a short novel, basically. I think it's like 207 pages, but yeah, I love Conan, so I figured this would be a good chance to read up on a couple of the standalone novels after Robert E. Howard passed away. The novels that were written, you know, after that. It was a good chance to read some of those, so I'm going to read Conan the Rebel. Alright, challenge number 6 was to read a book that was written by a non-English speaking author. For this, I had The Last Witch by Andrzej Sapkowski, who is a Polish author who's famous for, you know, the Witcher series. I already had this one, so I was definitely going to do this one to meet this challenge. But actually, I've heard mixed reviews now from several people. Like my best friend is basically telling me I need to read it and I need to play the Witcher games, which I haven't. But anyways, so yeah, I'm going to definitely see what it's all about and hopefully I get through it. Alright, challenge number 7 is to read a fantasy book that is in a non-European setting. And for that, I'm going to go, I thought it would be a good chance to read The Six Gun Tarot by R.S. Belcher. And this is a book, all I know really is that it's Western fantasy, and this takes place in like a alternate universe of the American Wild West in the 1800s. It looked really interesting. The cover was just like really, really cool. So, and it's the first book in a trilogy called the Golgotha trilogy. And actually the second book, Shotgun Arcanum, looks really cool too. So yeah, that's primarily why I picked the books up. But I like Flintlock fantasy, so I'm definitely interested to see if I also like Western fantasy. Alright, and for challenge number 8 is to include a fantasy book that has a LGBTQI plus character in it. And I've already finished 1,000 Names, but I'm going to read the second book in the Shadow Campaign series by Django Wexler, which is The Shadow Thrones, I think. Hopefully I got that one right. And one of the main characters is Winter Earnglass, who's a lesbian, so that would fit that requirement as well. So, those are the 8 books I hope I can get through. Perhaps, probably not, but we're going to try. I forgot to mention at the beginning of the video that the time allotment for this readathon is 2 weeks and takes place between April 29th and March 12th. But yeah, hopefully I can squeeze in all 8 of these titles if I can. If not, hopefully I can just get through as many as possible. But yeah, I'm excited to start reading some fantasy. I've kind of put that off for all my nonfiction books, basically. But yeah, I definitely had the intention of reading a lot of fantasy this year, so this is definitely going to help me get through a bunch of that. And always remember, read victoriously.